And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the heart of the Inland Empire, right here in sunny Southern California, it's Robert Cardoza Live, where we talk about politics, money, and you. This is the intersection of business and politics. And now here's your host, Robert Cardoza.
And welcome aboard. I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to the intersection of business and politics right here on Robert Cardoza Live, where I do an honest, unbiased analysis of the issues confronting you today that affect the decisions that you're going to make for both your personal and your business life. I come to you every Monday through Friday on Spreaker Radio, Roar 1776 Radio, Blog Talk Radio, and MyCast Live Radio from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Also on 405 Media Radio, Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Pacific Time, in addition to countless terrestrial stations worldwide. Please follow me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, and YouTube, where you can listen to all of my shows 24/7. Go to my website at www.robertcardozalive.com for archives of all my radio and television shows. You can also access my show live right from my website each day, simply by clicking on that little icon labeled Listen Live. Email me at robertcardozalive@gmail.com. That's where I get all the emails that I deal with here on the show. And you can call into my show if you want to comment or just engage me in conversation about anything. Call directly into the studio at area code 909-545-6516. Again, that number, 909-545-6516. Now, in today's show, we're going to discuss what's in the news, new legislation, the IRS loses, and I'm going to answer your emails just like I always do. Today, my expert contributor is on a special assignment in Napa, California. That's that little old winemaker, John Hanson. He'll be telling us all about that next week. And I'm going to cover for you some special things today: the triple tax shelters, working after retirement, and tax rules for eBay sellers, and a lot more. So you don't want to miss any of those things. So I want you to stand by for news. But first, I want you to know that at 3:03 p.m. Pacific Time, it is currently 70 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, let's talk about the 10 things that you need to know for today, Monday. And let's just get right to it. Your daily look at late-breaking news, upcoming events, and the stories that'll be talked about all day today and probably most of the day tomorrow. First off, torrential rain swamps hundreds of South Carolina homes and businesses. Emergency crews rescue scores of people from flooded buildings in Columbia, South Carolina, hit by over 18 inches of precipitation in the last few days. We will not be defined by violence. That's what Pastor Randy Scroggins tells his congregation in Roseburg, Oregon. Days after a gunman killed 9 people at a local community college, Scroggins' daughter survived the rampage. Now, how many federal inmates escape en route to halfway houses? Well, more than 240 prisoners slipped away from federal custody in the past 3 years while traveling to halfway houses, according to documents that the Associated Press obtained. And Nobel season kicks off. The Medicine Award will be announced today, followed by physics, chemistry, literature, peace, and economics. And who's shaking up the GOP leadership race? Well, Representative Jason Chaffetz of Utah challenges presumptive favorite Representative Kevin McCarthy for the House Speaker post. What did McCarthy put his foot in it, right? Yep. And then U.S.-Afghan officials pledge hospital attack investigation. Some top U.S. officials say the circumstances surrounding the deadly incident remain murky, but others indicate the U.S. may have been responsible for this. Hope fades for finding Guatemala mudslide survivors. At least 114 bodies have been removed, or recovered, I should say, from the rubble, and hundreds of people remain unaccounted for. And no end in sight for the European migrant crisis. Over 500,000 refugees have crossed the Mediterranean to Europe this year, but it's just the tip of the iceberg, says the United Nations Babar Balcock. And why American hiker wants to tackle 20,000-mile trek. I really want to inspire others to pursue their own audacious goals, says Bethany Hughes, who intends to embark on a 5-year non-motorized trip from the tip of Argentina to Boro, Alaska. Wow. Now, there's a gal with a tenacious constitution, I'd say. And finally, in our abbreviated news, Ohio State remains the top the Associated Press college poll. TCU moves up to number 2 in the football standings, and Baylor reaches number 3. Well, that's our news encapsulated. Now you know what's going on in the news today. But, I think it's important that we continue to get in depth with the news. One of the big things that we want to talk about today is that starting today, we're going to be broadcasting again on Blog Talk Radio in addition to all the other stations that we broadcast on. However, we're only going to be broadcasting on Blog Talk for about 30 minutes each day. And we're going to be covering the things that we're covering right now. We're going to cover the news encapsulated. We're going to cover in-depth news. We're going to talk about the IRS loses and inside the IRS. And that'll pretty well cover what we're going to do on Blog Talk. For those of you folks that are going to be listening to us on Blog Talk, just know that you can go to our website at robertcardozalive.com and listen to archives of our entire show. You can also go to Spreaker.com and listen to the entire show live or archived. And you can go to YouTube and listen to our show. So hopefully that's going to help you out and it'll get you going. In any event, you'll get 30 minutes of in-depth news, encapsulated news, so you'll know what's going on in the world. So let's get right to it. The South Carolina flood. Thousands without running water. After a week of steady rain, the showers tapered off Monday, and an inundated South Carolina turned to surveying a road system shredded by historic flooding, and in a cruel twist, thousands of residents faced the prospect of going days without running water. The governor warned communities downstream near the low-lying coast that they may still see rising water and to be prepared for more evacuations. More than 900 people were staying in shelters and nearly 40,000 people were without water. At least 12 weather-related deaths in 2 states were blamed on the vast rainstorm, with one of the latest coming when a sedan drove around a barricade installed in rushing waters. The driver drowned, but a woman who was riding in the car managed to climb on top of it and was rescued by a firefighter who waded into the water. She came out the window. How she got on top of the car and stayed there like she did with the water, there's a good Lord, Kershaw County Coroner David West said. Now, today, the rains moved north into North Carolina and the mid-Atlantic states. The storm was part of a system that dumped an unprecedented amount of rain across South Carolina and several other states. Satellite images released by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration show South Carolina getting drenched by a fire hose of tropical moisture. You know what? My personal opinion is that this is just the beginning of what we're going to see as a horrific winter this year. Mark my words. And, because I am a supporter of global warming, I think that that's exactly what's going on here. Matter of fact, right here in good old, usually sunny Southern California, we got some sun out there now. We call that liquid sunshine. We just went through a downpour of rain right here. Did it yesterday, too. Well, let's move on. U.S. commander says Afghans requested U.S. airstrike in Kunduz. Afghan forces who reported being under Taliban fire requested the U.S. airstrike that killed 22 people at a medical clinic in northern Afghanistan over the weekend. The top commander of American and coalition forces in Afghanistan said today, correcting an initial U.S. statement that the strike had been launched because U.S. forces were threatened. The strike wasn't sought by U.S. forces, General John Campbell said at a hastily arranged Pentagon news conference. We have now learned that on October the 3rd, Afghan forces advised that they were taking fire from enemy positions and asked for air support from U.S. forces, Campbell said. An airstrike was then called to eliminate the Taliban threat, and several civilians were accidentally struck. This is different from the initial reports, which indicated that U.S. forces were threatened and that the airstrike was called on their behalf. The clinic was operated by the medical charity Doctors Without Borders. The attack killed at least 22 people and wounded dozens more, setting the hospital on fire. In response to Campbell's remarks, the organization's general director, Christopher Stokes, said the U.S. had admitted that it attacked the facility. The U.S. military remains responsible for the targets it hits, even though it is part of a coalition, Stokes said. There can be no justification for this horrible attack. With such constant discrepancies in the U.S. and Afghan accounts of what happened, the need for a full, transparent, independent investigation is ever more critical. Boy, I'd certainly agree with that, wouldn't you? Absolutely. Well, the Coast Guard says missing ship sank. One body found and the search goes on. Wow. You know, the captain of the 790-foot El Faro planned to bypass Hurricane Joaquin, but some kind of mechanical failure left the U.S. container ship with 33 people aboard helplessly and tragically adrift in the path of the powerful storm, the vessel's owners say. Today, 4 days after the ship vanished, the Coast Guard concluded it sank near the Bahamas in about 15,000 feet of water. One unidentified body in a survival suit was recovered, and the search went on for any trace of other crew members. Survival suits help mariners float and stay warm, but even with the water temperature at 85 degrees, hypothermia can set in quickly. Coast Guard Captain Mark Fodor said he noted that the hurricane had winds of about 140 miles per hour and waves topping 50 feet. These are trained mariners. They know how to abandon ship, Fader said, but those are challenging conditions to survive. You know, the ship carrying cars and other products had 28 crew members from the United States and 5 from Poland. Coast Guard and Navy planes, helicopters, cutters, and tugboats searched across a 300-square-mile expanse of Atlantic Ocean near Crooked Island in the Bahamas, where the ship was last heard from while on its way from Jacksonville to Puerto Rico. Wow. You know, tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. Is there nothing left for our future but one tragedy after another? Think about it. I mean, this is not good stuff, right? It doesn't seem like it to me anyway, like it's good stuff. It seems to me like this is tough stuff. And that's kind of how I feel about it. You know, really, really tough stuff. Anyway, let's talk about Israeli Prime Minister vows strong action against the Palestinian unrest. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned today that he will use a strong hand to quell violent Palestinian protests and deadly attacks, signaling that the current round of violence is bound to escalate at a time when a political solution to the conflict is increasingly distant. Netanyahu said he has sent thousands more soldiers and police to the West Bank and Arab neighborhoods of Jerusalem, and that we are allowing our forces to take strong action against those who throw rocks and firebombs. He said restrictions limiting what security forces can do were being lifted, but did not elaborate on what actually would happen. Netanyahu's warnings came after a rash of violence that began Thursday when Palestinian gunmen killed an Israeli couple in their car near a settlement on the West Bank as their 4 children watched. 2 days later, a Palestinian stabbed an Israeli man to death and seriously wounded his wife as they walked in Jerusalem Old City, then attacked and killed another Israeli man. Israeli forces, meanwhile, killed 2 suspected Palestinian assailants over the weekend and today shot dead 2 teenage stone throwers, one of them a 13-year-old boy, in West Bank clashes. You know, this is going way too far. Whatever happened to peace on earth? Boy, I just don't know. I haven't got a clue. Do you? Not a chance. Not a chance. Well, let's try this. Did you know that a medical emergency sends Boston-bound plane to New York and the pilot dies? An American Airlines flight from Phoenix to Boston was diverted to Syracuse, New York today. I should say this morning, after the captain became ill and later died, according to an airline spokeswoman. Andrea Hughley said Flight 550 left Phoenix at 11:55 p.m. local time and was diverted mid-flight, landing shortly after 7 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. She said that after the flight's captain was stricken, the first officers safely landed the plane with 147 passengers and 5 crew members on board. We are incredibly saddened by this event, and we are focused on caring for our pilot's family and colleagues, the airline statement said. Details of the medical emergency and the identity of the deceased pilot weren't immediately released. It also wasn't clear when the pilot actually died. Wow. Now you know why they've got more than one pilot on a plane, right? Yeah. Makes sense to me. Well, questions arise about neighborhood where slide killed 139 people. Emergency workers spent a fourth day digging bodies out of a massive mudslide today, watching the death toll rise to 139 as questions mounted about why people were allowed to build homes at the base of a dangerous hillside next to a small river. Backhoes continued to remove thousands of tons of dirt from the acres-wide mud flow on the outskirts of Guatemala City, with practically no hope of finding anyone alive and increasing difficulties in rescuing whole bodies. Guatemala's National Disaster Reduction Commission, known as the CONRAD, said today it had warned about the risk to the Cambrai neighborhood since last year and had recommended that residents be relocated. The commission has now declared the Cambrai area uninhabitable. About 300 people remain missing. Commission Director Alejandro Maldonado said he had warned Mayor Tono Coro of the municipality of Santa Catarina, Pinola, that the river was eating away at the base of the steep hill. Wow. Maldonado said he was waiting for a report from local authorities about what they had done in response to the warning. It appears that they didn't do anything in response to the warning. At least that's what it looks like to me. Well, Carly Fiorina's campaign includes the rare job body woman. Well, in her 6 months working for Carly Fiorina, Rebecca Schreiber has learned to always have a Sharpie pen handy for autographs. She's found ways to order the right vegetable-loaded meals on the road and become an expert at whisking her boss out of a room. She's still working on keeping the candidate's favorite crunchy gum in her bulging bag. Fiorina's Republican presidential campaign has served as a whirlwind political education for the 22-year-old who graduated from Northwestern University in the spring. I don't think the books I read in college at all prepared me for this experience, says Schreiber, a native of the Chicago suburbs who studied political science and American studies before coming to work for the GOP's lone female presidential candidate. Schreiber has landed in a rare position on the presidential campaign trailing as a body woman. The job isn't to provide security, but rather to act as more of a personal assistant, advisor, and sidekick. It is typically held by men, perhaps because most candidates in both parties are male, and this remains the kind of up-close and personal gig where gender still plays a role in hiring decisions. It's not unusual for the aide to spend long days with the candidate and late nights conferring in a hotel room. I hadn't given that any thought, but it does make a lot of sense, doesn't it? Sure it does. I think it does if you're going there. Well, let's wrap up the news with this issue coming in. Twitter gives the co-founder Jack Dorsey a second chance as CEO. Twitter is embracing Jack Dorsey as its CEO in hopes that its once spurned co-founder can hatch a plan to expand the short messaging service's audience and end nearly a decade of financial losses. The hiring revealed today in a regulatory firing ends Twitter's 3-month search for a new leader. It marks Dorsey's second stint as CEO since he helped start the San Francisco company more than 9 years ago with Evan Williams, Biz Stone, and Noah Glass. Twitter dumped Dorsey his first time around, but its board of directors is now convinced that he has the maturity and expertise to fix the problems that have caused the company's stock to lose nearly half of its value in the past 5 months. As the founder and inventor of the product, Jack knows more about Twitter than anybody else, said Peter Curie, the Twitter director who led the search for a new CEO. Investors applauded the move as Twitter stock surged 1.84 or 7% to close at $28.15 a share. Dorsey, 38, has already had dress rehearsal for the job, having become Twitter's interim CEO in July after former stand-up comedian and veteran entrepreneur Dick Costolo stepped down amid shareholder discontent. Costolo is relinquishing his seat on Twitter's board now that Dorsey is permanent CEO. Twitter had considered as chief revenue officer Adam Bain and several other CEO candidates before settling on Dorsey. Bain, 42, is being promoted to chief operating operating officer to handle more duties as he teams up with Dorsey to try to turn Twitter into a profitable business. Yep. You know what? And the world goes around, right? That's exactly what happens, I think. The world continues to go around. And so now, you know what? I just think that it's inevitable what's going on. Companies are looking for strong CEOs that can actually have a meaningful effect on what's going on with their companies, and they can't accept anything short of success. We're in an era where CEOs are going to have to earn their money. They're not just going to be able to get to buy this way. Oh, yeah, here we are, my favorite part of the show, the IRS loses. And you know what, we've got three really great cases here for you today, and so I want to make sure we get into them and get them all out here for you. The first one is a farmer's profit motive makes losses deductible. And you know what, the profit motive has everything to do with this. So just keep this in mind, okay? Now, Benny Mullins was a successful business owner who grew up on a farm and wanted to return to owning one. He bought a cattle farm and, after semi-retiring, lived and worked on it. The farm incurred steady losses. The IRS said these losses showed it was not being run for profit, but to shelter income Mullins had received from his business and disallowed his loss deductions. He went to court, and this is what the court said. Mullins worked 50 hours a week on the farm, moved to a primitive home located on it to be there to work, consulted with experts, and repeatedly changed farming strategies to improve profitability. All this indicated he did have a profit motive, so his losses are deductible. Shame on you, IRS. You knew it all the time, didn't you? Sure you did. How about this? The IRS loses. President in name only is not liable for a company's unpaid taxes. Here's the case. Ellen Marino was the president of a leading company founded by her son, but the business was run by her live-in companion who was ineligible under state law to be an officer of the company because of his past credit problems. Any tasks Ellen performed for the company, she did under his direction. When the company fell behind on its payroll taxes, the IRS contacted her and she informed her companion. Eventually, the IRS assessed $76,000 in personal liability against her for the unpaid taxes. They went to court. This is what the judge said. Marino had no real authority over the company's finances, so she was not responsible nor liable for those taxes. Now keep in mind that, when it comes to these kind of issues, there's a number of things that have to prevail for the IRS to prevail against you. You have to have had knowledge that something wrong took place. You need to have the access to the funds, the checkbook, and power, what they call power of the pen, and you have to have had intent. None of these three things existed, and all three of them have to exist, and the IRS knew that. Shame on them. Shame on them. Let me give you one last one. The IRS loses. Cannot seize winnings one player wins for another. Here's the case. Robert Whitlatch devised a system for winning video lottery jackpots. It required playing the same machine for many hours, so he hired Paul Kovach to play a machine for him and gave Kovach all the funds to be wagered. When Kovach hit a jackpot, Whitlatch claimed it, but both the casino and IRS said it was payable to Kovach, the actual player. The IRS then tried to take the entire jackpot to settle Kovach's back tax debts. He went to court. This is what the judge said. Neither the state gaming law nor the casino's published rules barred one person from playing for another. So, the winnings are Whitlatch's, who also collects interest from the IRS for his delay in collecting them. Now that, my friends, makes sense. That just makes sense. Okay, so let's get into this. Now, this is not court cases, but this is precedent that was set down and things that are public knowledge that people can actually use to their benefit. Now, this first issue up is what the IRS lawyers are saying to each other and to the field officers. Until overturned by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, the chief counsel of the IRS took the position that emails containing legal advice drafted by an IRS lawyer, even though they took very little time to prepare, actually less than 2 hours, should be treated the same as a telephone conversation and were therefore not required to be publicly disclosed. Here's the current rule. IRS attorneys are required to copy all emailed legal advice to a special electronic inbox from which they are to be released consistent with the usual disclosure laws. Now that, my friends, just makes sense. Let me give you one more. When a routine audit turns into a criminal investigation, it is not unusual for a revenue agent to uncover criminal conduct that's intent to evade tax during a routine audit. For instance, personal expenses may have been claimed as business expenses, or income may not have been reported because the checks were negotiated by a check cashing service and were not entered as gross income on the tax return. How to protect yourself? Do not let the accountant who prepared your tax return get involved in your audit. Why? He or she may ultimately become a witness against you if there's a criminal trial. Also, the accountant may incriminate you during the course of the examination. It might say, hey, my client told me that the personal expenses should be claimed as business expenses. If someone commits tax fraud, he should hire an experienced criminal tax attorney to handle the audit during the very first phone call to that revenue agent. Always, always, always. You know what? You do not want to get caught up in this kind of stuff. Get a licensed professional. Get yourself protected. You don't talk to the IRS. You don't let the person who prepared your documents talk to the IRS. You get an independent tax attorney. That's the only way you can kind of ensure or assure yourself of some kind of help. Now, we're going to be leaving Blog Talk Radio in this segment. We only have them for a half an hour each day. I remind you to go to my website at robertcardozalive.com or go to Spreaker.com and just do a search for Robert Cardoza Live, and you can listen to our show, the whole show, or get our apps that are available for both Apple and Android and Windows. Just go to googleplay.com and search Robert Cardoza Live, or go to your Apple Store and search Robert Cardoza Live. That app is absolutely free. You'll be glad you got it. It's a fantastic thing. And it allows you not only to listen live, but it lets you listen to the archives, and it lets you chat with us during the show. Now, having said that, do not go away, because when we come back from this commercial break, I'm going to talk about triple tax shelters. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back after these brief messages.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchased high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, & Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, & Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, & Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, & Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. And you know what? You can tell that we've kind of changed the format of our show just a little bit today. And it's because we wanted to accommodate the inclusion of Blog Talk Radio on our show. And so you're going to have it this way just about every day. We'll only have, we're going to skip a couple of commercials so that we can get the extra time in and get the extra station in. I think it's worthwhile. It makes things a little more convenient for you, and it broadens the scope of the audience that we have. So right now, let's get right to it. I want to talk to you about triple tax shelter with variable universal life insurance. So it gets a little technical, but listen to this. You know, life insurance policies generally come in two flavors, term and permanent. Now, term policies have much lower premiums because they pay only if the insured person dies prior to the expiration of the term. Now, permanent life policies, on the other hand, require higher premiums, but some of the money goes into what might be considered an investment account, sometimes known as the policy's cash value. Now, the cash value is designed to help pay life insurance premiums when you grow older. The result? If you want insurance that will pay off no matter how long you live, the permanent policy is probably the only kind that makes sense for you. You might use the proceeds for estate liquidity to pay tax and final expenses, or to even out your estate among beneficiaries, or in the case of remarriage. Among permanent life insurance policies, there are three main types. There's whole life, variable life, and universal life. Now, recently, a hybrid variable universal life has become popular, as I'm going to explain now. Let's talk about the triple tax shelter. With term and permanent life, death benefits usually are income tax-free to beneficiaries. The permanent policies offer two additional tax benefits. Tax-deferred buildup, that's investments inside the cash value account, may generate income. Such income will not be subject to income tax inside the policy. And tax-free distributions. Owners may take withdrawals and loans from a permanent life policy, withdrawals up to the amount paid in premiums. Your basis are not taxable, the amount that you actually paid. Now, loans also may not be taxable as long as the insurance policy retains adequate cash value in excess of the outstanding loan. The downside? Taking withdrawals and policy loans may reduce cash value and the death benefit if they amount to more than is added back to the cash value from investments. How policy loans work? Well, you tell the company that you want to borrow at the interest rate specified in the policy. You may pay interest in whole or in part, or you may skip paying interest. Any unpaid interest will be added to the loan balance. Once the loan balance equals the cash value, no more loans will be allowed. When you die, any outstanding loan balance will be subtracted from the death benefit your beneficiary actually receives. But you got to be careful. The loan balance, including accrued interest, may reach a point where it exceeds the cash value unless you contribute enough to bring the cash balance back to the plus side. You'll owe tax on the income that was deferred inside that policy. All three types of permanent life policies offer all three tax benefits mentioned before. Now, from there, however, there are differences among the three types. Whole life and universal life. With these policies, your cash value grows at a rate determined by the prevailing level of interest rates. But universal life gives more flexibility in payment or premiums in that you can, from time to time, reduce scheduled premium payments if you wish without having the insurance policy lapse. And then there's variable life. These policies typically let you determine within limits how your money's going to be invested. You can allocate your premium payments among several types of investments accounts set up by the insurer. In many cases, these accounts are similar to publicly available mutual funds run by the same manager. So here's the thing, here's the result. Paying variable life insurance premiums on a regular basis is a form of dollar cost averaging. If a portion of your premiums is allocated to stock funds, you'll be buying more shares when the market is low than when it's high. Historically, this strategy of investing periodically has produced superior returns for investors. If this trend continues, variable life insurance policies likely will provide more cash value and a greater death benefit over 20-plus years than other types of permanent policies. Then there's a flex plan. As mentioned, variable universal life is a hybrid of universal and variable life. Now, with variable universal life, you also have the flexibility of universal life. So, assessing the advantages? Well, variable universal life policies, therefore, offer up upside potential to patient long-term investors, along with the ability to trim payments if cash is tight. Other advantages include creditor protection. Investing you do via a tax-deferred retirement account generally enjoys protection from legal judgments, settlements, and that kind of stuff. However, money you invest directly in stocks, bonds, or funds may be claimed by creditors. So some states extend creditor protection to all life insurance policies. They include, among others, Florida, Hawaii, Kentucky, Louisiana, New York, Texas, and West Virginia. If this is a concern of yours, check your state's rules. You might prefer to do some of your own investing through the variable universal life policy. How about tax-free access? If you invest directly in stocks, bonds, and funds, you'll probably owe tax each year on investment income. Investing via the variable universal life policy, we're going to call that VUL, provides tax-deferred buildup of cash value. If necessary, you can tap your cash value via withdrawals and loans. Done properly, up to a certain point, these withdrawals can be untaxed. So let me give you an example of that. Let's just say Jack Jones pays $100,000 in VUL premiums over 10 years. He makes no further payments for the next 10 years. But his investment accounts do well. So his cash value grows to $200,000 after 20 years. For the next 10 years, Jack withdraws $10,000 a year from his variable universal life policy. Those are tax-free returns of principal. Subsequently, Jack takes policy loans. The better the performance of his cash value, the more he can borrow without causing his policy to lapse, which would trigger income tax. Bottom line here, by investing inside a variable universal life policy, Jack ultimately may pull out major tax-free investment income. Plus, IRS guidelines on loans and withdrawals are designed to keep the policy in force even if you pay a lower premium or skip payments. Jack's policy will eventually deliver a death benefit to his beneficiaries free of income tax. The IRS has guidelines for the ratio between cash values and death benefits in order for a policy to qualify for tax-free loans and withdrawals. So the negatives? As is always the case with financial products that sound too good to be true, there are drawbacks to the universal life policies. First of all, there's fees. You will pay sales commissions, insurance expense fees, and investment management fees with that variable universal life policy. Over the long term, they can add up to the equivalent of about 3% a year. Now, upfront fees usually are steeper than the 3%, especially sales commissions. That's why you should plan on a long holding period, spreading those upfront fees over many, many years. So the example here, your variable universal life investments might return, let's just say 9% per year before any expenses are considered. However, your buildup of cash value after fees might be only 6% a year. And let's talk about limited access. As mentioned, taking excessive policy loans and withdrawals will trigger taxable income and may cause your family to lose the life insurance benefits. If your goal is retirement income rather than a death benefit, you'll probably be better off with a non-insurance related investment portfolio that you can spin down entirely. So now let's talk about the best of both worlds. Consider a variable universal life policy when you want to provide a death benefit for a loved one or a favorite cause, no matter when you die. If you enjoy managing your own investments and can tolerate equity market ups and downs, variable universal life might deliver results that are superior to other forms of permanent life insurance. Ideally, variable universal life will provide handsomely for your beneficiaries. However, if it turns out that you need extra cash in retirement, a variable universal life policy also can deliver that cash to you tax-free if the policy is tapped with proper guidance and care. And in that, my friends, is the real secret. It's making sure that you do this properly. You just can't move off and do things simply because, hey, it sounds like a good idea to me. It's just not the way it works. Just simply not the way it works. Real briefly, let's talk about some tax breaks that you can take. And I'm just going to give you a capsulated portion of this before we go on our next commercial break. First of all, did you know that the investment tax rate is changing so that it's down to only 15%? It's going to stay at that 15% for investments. That's a good thing for you unless the new president that goes in has a what I call it, a dramatic change in their tax policies. How about mortgage insurance premiums on a personal residence? The insurance premiums are deductible to you. When they say you got to get mortgage insurance because you haven't got enough down on your home or you don't have enough equity on your home, well, that mortgage insurance premium is deductible to you just like it was interest. Gifts to charity by direct transfer from an IRA now. You can do that, and it won't be taxed to you. I'm not talking about a Roth. I'm talking about a regular IRA. Did you know that pension plan rollovers for non-spouses, as long as it's rolled over to another pension plan, there'll be no tax on it if you're a beneficiary, or even to yourself? How about this? Energy-saving tax credits. A tax credit of as much as $500 is available for energy-saving improvements made to your home or, that kind of stuff. So why not take those tax credits? Ask your preparer if there are any tax credits available to you or college tuition deduction expense issues. How about IRA health savings accounts? They call them HSA rollovers. Or what happens if you get a whistleblower's reward? Think about it. Did you know that the whistleblower's reward can be up to 30% of the tax collected, as low as 10%? And then, how about automatic enrollment of employees in a 401k plan? That's permitted. It can be automatic. You don't even have to apply for it. Here's another thing. Domestic production activity reduction. So, if you're doing domestic production, you're producing things, manufacturing, there's a credit for that. Extended research tax credits. If you're doing research and development, there's tax credits for that. Why do you think so many companies are developing new products and then charging you through the nose for them? Give that some thought. Increased expensing through the Section 179 election is available. And then finally, extended work opportunity tax credit. All of those things are readily available to you. Don't miss out on these tax credits that are there. And the reason I'm telling you about it now, and we're just in October, is because this is the time that you need to be thinking about it. Plan today for tomorrow. This tax year is going to be over before you know it. Plan for it. Now, do not go away, because when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about working after retirement. It has a big impact on benefits and taxes. I'll tell you all about that right after these brief messages. Do not go away.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful in visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make The Interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Dental Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 3:50 p.m. Pacific time. Currently 70 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, the sun has come out. It's liquid sunshine. It was really raining earlier. But you know what? It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day from here on out, and the heat's going to start coming back for this weekend. Let's talk right now, though, about a really enticing subject, and that is working after retirement. You know what? Actually, before I do that, I need to remind you that in about 8 minutes, we're going to be leaving the 405 Media Network. They're with us for the first hour of our show, and they're with us every Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. But if you'd like to hear the second hour of our show, just go to Spreaker.com and just search Robert Cardoza Live, and you'll be able to listen to the rest of our show. You'll also be able to, if you get our what do you call them? Apps. We have an app for Android and Windows, and we have an app for Apple products. Just go to the Apple Store and search Robert Cardoza Live, or go to Google Play and search Robert Cardoza Live, and you can get those apps absolutely free. You can get our archive shows or listen to us live. You can even comment to us while we're doing the show live. I think you'll enjoy that. Now, let's get right to working after retirement, and it's got a big impact on benefits and taxes. Today, retirement from a job for many people is only a transition into a new phase of work. More and more seniors are starting businesses or beginning new careers, and some of those never plan to fully retire. Often, they do this for the money as well as to stay alive and challenged. What impact does continuing to work have on retirement benefits, such as Social Security or Medicare, and funds in the qualified retirement plans and IRAs? To maximize after-retirement income and wealth, it's important to know the rules. So first, let's talk about Social Security benefits. Working into one's retirement years affects Social Security retirement benefits. The impact depends on when you start taking those benefits, and there are 3 choices with this. First off, start taking benefits as early as 62. Now, this is the minimum age to start taking benefits, but there are 2 drawbacks to this option. First, benefits will be permanently reduced because you're taking them prior to attaining your full federal retirement age, which is 67 years old, by the way. But the truth is it's 67 years old. Second, those who earn over the threshold amount of $13,000 will see benefits reduced by $1 for every $2 that they earn over this amount until they reach that full retirement age of 67. And then start at full retirement age. Now, this age depends on your year of birth. For those born in 1943 through 1954, the full retirement age is 66. Once this age is achieved, there's no reduction in benefits if you continue to earn income, regardless of the amount that you earn. But today, that's 70. Now, here's a break. The Social Security Administration will continue to adjust benefits annually to take into account any higher earnings years. So, working after you retire from one job, regardless of your age, up to age 70, can increase your monthly retirement benefits even after you started taking benefits. The reason? Benefits are based on a look-back period of your best 35 years of work history. So, delay benefits until age 70. For every year that you wait to start collecting benefits, the amount that you collect increases up until age 70. Now, those born in 1943 and later will earn an 8%. Oh, let's see. Let's get rid of that. I didn't want to hear that going off. Anyway, they'll earn. Let's see here. I lost my train of thought. If you delay your till later, you'll earn 8% increase in benefits for each year that they wait to collect after their full retirement age until age 70. There's no reward for waiting any longer than that. So if you wait till 70, from 66 to 70, there's 4 years at 8%. That's 32% more in benefits you'll get at age 70. So that can be a big deal. Especially if you're healthy and you have a history of longevity in your family. Now, you can use an online calculator from the Social Security Administration to see the impact of your age on your benefits. Just go to www.ssa.gov/planners/calculators.htm. The tax impact? Working while collecting Social Security benefits has two important tax results that should be factored into the decision on when to commence benefits. Tax on Social Security benefits? Any benefits received will be included in income at the rate of 50%, 85%, or 0%, depending on your other income. Now, those who work likely will trigger the 85% inclusion amount. 85% of their benefits will be subject to tax. Now, continued payment of Social Security tax? Whether or not you are collecting benefits and regardless of your age, as long as you continue to earn income through a job or self-employment, you continue to pay Social Security and Medicare taxes on that income. So let's talk about Medicare. Regardless of whether you are collecting Social Security benefits or are applying for them, be sure to apply for Medicare coverage at age 65. Contact the Social Security Administration several months before this birthday to enroll. If you still have credible health coverage through an employer or a union, apply only for Medicare Part A. It doesn't cost you anything and will provide secondary coverage, paying some things that your commercially provided coverage doesn't pay. Now, credible means at least as good coverage as Medicare provides. Ask your employer for a letter confirming that your coverage meets this standard. Once you no longer have employer coverage, you should enroll in Medicare Part B, that's primarily for doctor's fees, and D, prescription drugs. The fact that you delayed this coverage past age 65 won't result in penalty as long as you sign up no later than 8 months after your employer coverage terminates for Part B. For Part D, you must sign up no later than 63 calendar days after employer coverage ends, and you must show Medicare a letter from your employer stating that you had credible coverage through that certain date. For details, including penalty information, visit the Medicare at www.medicare.gov. Let's talk about retirement plans. For those who continue to work after retiring from a job, the maze of rules for putting money in and taking money out of qualified retirement plans and IRAs is complex. Here's some considerations for you. Qualified retirement plans first. Workplace plans must include these older workers and cannot exclude them because of age. For example, if you work past retirement age for a company that contributes to a plan, you're eligible to receive contributions assuming you meet other eligibility requirements. But you usually must, at the same time, commence receipt of benefits from qualified retirement plans such as a 401k, profit sharing, and defined benefit plans at age 70 and a half in order to avoid a 50% penalty on insufficient withdrawals. That's required by law. And you got to be careful. While distributions from a qualified retirement plan can be postponed past this age, if you continue working for a company that maintains the plan and the plan allows it, this break doesn't apply after you leave the company and work someplace else. How about IRAs? As long as you continue to work, deductible IRA contributions are permitted until age 70 and a half, assuming adjusted gross income, or AGI, is below set limits for those who are active participants in company retirement plans. Now, to contribute past this age, contribute on behalf of a younger non-working spouse. As long as the spouse is under age 70 and a half, you can fund his or her IRA based on your earnings. And contribute to a Roth IRA. There's no age limit on making contributions. Also, there's no mandatory lifetime distributions. However, there are still AGI limits on eligibility to put money into a Roth IRA, so too much income can prevent these kind of contributions. And then let's deal with relocating. If you relocate after you leave a job, factor in the state tax rules for the treatment of various types of retirement income, even if you continue to work. Consider the impact on your new earnings as well as on your previously accumulated retirement benefits. Some states provide generous exemptions for Social Security and or distributions of qualified retirement benefits and IRAs. View the treatment and retirement income in the different states at the Retirement Living website. That's www.retirementliving.com/rltaxes.html. Now take note here. Your old state cannot tax the benefits you collect from qualified plans and IRAs in your new state, even though you earned those benefits in the old state. So let's talk about moving costs. You can deduct the cost of moving as long as you continue to work for a set time in your new location. For instance, if you relocate from Connecticut to Arizona when you retire, you can deduct the cost of moving your household items if you work full-time for at least 39 weeks within a 12-month period in your new location. 78 weeks within a 24-month period if you start your own business in the new location. So, for more information on this, read IRS Publication 521. That's Moving Expenses. You'll be glad that you did that. I mean, I promise you, you'll be glad that you did that. Now, you know what? When we come back from this next commercial break, I'm going to talk to you about something that I think you'll find of tremendous interest, and that is the tax rules for eBay sellers. Can you believe it? Yeah. The IRS has actually developed tax rules specifically for eBay sellers. Now, this is one that you've got to be interested in. You have just got to be interested in this. And I'll tell you all about it right after these brief messages. So do not go away. I'll be right back, folks.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. You know, nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, you know Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchased high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson & Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4:05 p.m. Pacific time. It is currently 70 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. That's on its way down to 56 degrees, it looks like today. But here, I actually have an area now that I want to talk to you about. That, oh, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, you haven't heard from anybody but me today because our good old buddy John Hansen, that little old wine drinker, is up in Napa, California at the Terra Roja winery, and he's experiencing the new breakout of the new vintage for Terra Roja, magnificent wine. Linda Neal, who owns that winery, good friend of mine, good friend of John's, invited us all up there. I couldn't go, but John did go, and he's going to report back to us next week on that. Hopefully he might even have Linda on the air with us. But boy, what a magnificent evening he must be having. I'm sure, well, actually, it was actually last night. So, I'm sure that he's having a great, great time. And, and then we've changed the format of the show here a little bit. So it has created a lot more airtime for me than usual. So if I sound a little disorganized or combobulated, it's because we're in a whole new format here. We added a new radio station, and we're trying to accommodate all of those things because we've got a couple of stations that don't stay with us for the full 2 hours. And so we have to deal with that. So anyway, that's what's going on here today. Tomorrow, I will be talking a little bit too. Our journalist Suzette Mailer has a personal issue that she's researching, and she's not going to be able to be on the air with us tomorrow, but she'll be back with us next week. So we look forward to that. But right now, let's talk about the tax rules for eBay sellers, and you're going to find this interesting. With more than 233 million registered users, eBay is the world's largest marketplace. Millions take advantage of this online venue to sell anything and everything from junk around the house to diamond rings, cars, and forklifts. Just because sales activities are online doesn't mean that they are invisible. You still need to know the tax rules to follow in reporting your eBay sales. When you sell items on eBay, the tax law may view you as belonging to one of three categories: casual seller, hobbyist, or business owner. Where you report income and whether you can deduct expenses depends on your category. There's no bright line based on revenue or number of sales dividing these categories. Many factors come into play. Here's what you're going to need to know. Now let's talk about casual sellers first. If you sell an item or two from time to time, such as unused sports equipment that are sitting in your garage, or then you're probably a casual seller. There's no formal designation in the tax law of casual seller. It's a descriptive term. Most sales like this are going to result in a loss. The price you receive on eBay will be less than what you actually paid for the item. Now, you're not required to report the loss on your tax return. You can't deduct it because it is viewed as a personal loss, and personal losses are not deductible. On the other hand, if you sell something at a profit, say the antique porcelain vase that you inherited from your aunt or the collectible child's game you bought at a garage sale, you must report the gain on your tax return. Of course, to determine your gain, you'll have to know your basis in that item. Generally, either the amount that you paid for it, or if it was given to you, the donor's basis, or if you inherited it, its value at death of the decedent. If you don't know what your basis is, then all of the proceeds are considered profit. That's 100%. That's gain, folks. Now take note. You can minimize taxable gain by adding your selling expenses to your basis. Selling expenses include eBay listing fees, the insertion fees paid to eBay to post the item for sale, and final value fees, a percentage of the item's final selling price that is also paid to eBay. These fees are paid by the seller. There's no threshold amount of gain or number of sales before you are required to report eBay transactions. All gain must be reported on a Schedule D, like David. You cannot take capital losses because these are personal items. Gains on the sale of items have been held more than a year or short term if held less than a year. However, unlike most long-term capital gains that are taxed at no more than 15%, gains on the sales of collectibles are taxed at 28% for those in income tax brackets of 28% and above. Now, collectibles for this purpose are defined in the instructions under Schedule D as works of art, rugs, antiques, precious metals such as gold, silver, platinum bullion, gems, stamps, coins, and certain tangible property. For hobbyists, if you sell items on eBay more frequently but your sales aren't profitable, your expenses exceed your revenue, you may be looked upon by the IRS as merely having a hobby rather than a business. Unless you can prove that you have a profit motive, then income is ordinary income reported as other income on Form 1040, but deductions can only be claimed to the extent of this income. If you make $1,000, your deductions cannot exceed $1,000. These limited deductions from a hobby are treated as miscellaneous itemized expenses deductible to the extent that they exceed 2% of adjusted gross income, or AGI. So there's a trap here. Individuals subject to the alternative minimum tax, the AMT, lose any benefit from hobby write-offs because miscellaneous itemized expenses are not deductible for AMT purposes. Sounding like you're getting screwed here, huh? Yep. Well, eBay business owners, let's talk about that. Now, to get out of the hobby classification, you must have a profit motive. This elevates your hobby to a business and lets you deduct business expenses and losses. Profit motive is demonstrated by running your activity in a business-like way, having a business plan, keep good books and records, and maintain a separate business bank account and credit card. Devoting considerable time to your activities on eBay, consulting with business experts such as accountants and successful eBay sellers on how to improve profitability. More than 1.3 million people have full-time or part-time businesses on eBay. If you're one of these people, be sure to observe the following tax responsibilities. Report income and expenses. Like any other sole proprietor, you must file Schedule C to report your income and expenses for the year. If you form a legal entity for your business, such as a corporation, you must file appropriate tax returns for the business. The difference between your gross receipts for the items that you sell and your cost of inventory, called the cost of goods, less any returns, is your income from eBay activities. Being in business also means that you can write off eBay-related expenses. There's some examples for that, in case you're thinking about it, right? Car expenses. You can deduct business use of your personal car for travel to garage sales, flea markets, and other locations where you buy your items or otherwise conduct business, such as trips to the post office or other shipping companies to mail your items to buyers. Write off your actual costs of business use of your car or take the IRS's standard mileage rate. Plus, any parking fees and tolls. Now, fees paid to eBay and PayPal, an online payment company. They're deductible. Home office costs, provided you use your space, such as a spare room, regularly and exclusively for your eBay business. Internet access fees, if personal use is minimal. How about sales and management tools? Typically, these tools, which help you automate listing and tracking eBay sales, involve deductible monthly or annual subscription fees. Software costs may be expensed. That's deducted or depreciated. Pay self-employment tax. Yuck. If eBay activities are profitable, you owe self-employment tax, which covers Social Security and Medicare. And here's a break for you. If eBay is a sideline business for you, you are an employee at another company, the Social Security portion of this tax may be covered at your place of work through FICA withholding. The wage base is $97,500. So anyone with wages at or above this amount from the FICA has been withheld will not owe Social Security portion of the self-employment tax. However, there's no wage-based limit for the Medicare portion of the tax, so profitable eBay businesses will always owe some self-employment tax. Now, see instructions to IRS Schedule SE, which is part of Form 1040, for more details on this. And how about this? You have to collect sales tax, folks. Just because a business is conducted online does not automatically exempt transactions from state and local state rules. With more than 8,000 sales tax jurisdictions nationwide, sales taxes are complex. In broad terms, a seller must collect sales tax on items sold to buyers within his or her state. So, check with your state revenue department for information about your collection and reporting responsibilities. But there is another break here. eBay business owners should obtain a state sales tax number, also called a resale number, under which to report sales tax collections. You can get the number from your state revenue department. Sellers can then use this number to avoid paying sales tax on items purchased for resale. Otherwise, we call that their inventory. Yeah, that's what that is. That's exactly what that is. Now, I got a couple of things that I want to cover with you just before we go on a break, and that's fighting the IRS. And then when we come back from doing that, I want to talk to you about how to avoid tax traps for unreasonable compensation. But let's talk about this. The IRS will not grant a new hearing in no harm violations. When Jane Moore lost a case at the IRS appeals, she protested that her case had been prejudiced after revenue agents involved in her audit contacted the appeals officer about her without her knowledge. The IRS admitted that the contacts had been illegal under the tax code, but said that they resulted in no harm, since the IRS had informed her of them afterward and they hadn't affected the case's outcome. The tax court agreed with Moore and ordered the IRS to grant her a new hearing or other remedy to remove risk of prejudice. The IRS said such no-harm violations of the law should not result in new hearings. It will not grant them in any such future cases, regardless of this tax court decision. Now that, my friends, is the IRS. That's sort of like the tail wagging the dog, isn't it? Doesn't seem quite right to me. So when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about how to avoid tax traps for unreasonable compensation. I'll tell you all about that right after these brief messages. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful in visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make the interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios, Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Dental Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. You know what? When I left you, I told you that I was going to tell you about how to avoid tax traps for unreasonable compensation. Now, doesn't that sound a little odd? Unreasonable compensation? What on earth could that possibly be, you say to yourself, right? Well, I got to tell you, I'm about to tell you, and you're going to find out. Here it is. If you're a decision maker at a small or mid-sized company, be careful how you set your compensation. Missteps can be costly. Now you know where I'm going, right? The too high trap. At regular C corporations, that's standalone corporations, the IRS looks for indications that compensation is unreasonably excessive. In such situations, some of your compensation will be recast as a dividend. Now, this dividend will be doubly taxed. It's going to be taxed to you and to your corporation. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. The too low trap. If you elect S corporation status, you generally won't have to worry about the corporate income tax because all corporate income tax is reported on your shareholders' personal tax returns. However, the IRS may charge S corporation owners with trying to avoid payroll tax by taking too little compensation. Reported profits may be recast as compensation, forcing you to pay more Medicare tax and possibly more Social Security tax. So here's a strategy. To avoid either trap, carefully decide upon the document the amount of compensation that you and other decision makers are going to receive. Makes sense, right? Sure it does. So let's talk about C corporations. If you run your business as a C corporation, you'll want to avoid double taxation of your income. Now, this is vital. To the IRS, compensation includes not only your salary, but also your bonus, retirement plan contributions, and executive benefits. You must justify the total package to avoid double taxation. Here's an example. Let's just say Bob Smith is the 100% owner of a C corporation. Including all the elements mentioned above, the IRS finds that Bob's total compensation in the recent year was $500,000. So here's the problem. Only $200,000 is considered by the IRS to be reasonable pay for someone in Bob's position. In this situation, $200,000 is characterized by the IRS as Bob's compensation, and $300,000 is deemed to be a dividend, a distribution of corporate earnings. So here's the result of that. Bob's corporation will owe tax on the extra $300,000 worth of income because it can't deduct the dividend payment. And Bob will owe tax on the $300,000 dividend as well as tax on his $200,000 in compensation. Even if your company's dividend payment qualifies for the 15% tax rate, the combined tax bill for the corporation and owner employees still can be substantial. Some basic planning can avert this double taxation, but to rebut such an IRS attack and justify your compensation, this is what you got to do. Pay some dividends. A C corporation that never pays dividends to shareholders is especially vulnerable to a charge of unreasonable compensation. Paying even a small dividend each year and paying double tax on those dividends may convince the IRS that you're playing by the rules. Build up your base pay. IRS challenges in this area tend to focus on bonuses and other forms of incentive pay. If your company has a $100,000 operating profit and then pays $100,000 in bonuses to shareholders, bringing corporate income down to zero, that might look like a $100,000 dividend to the IRS. The higher your salary, which the company is obligated to pay each year, the less likely the IRS will claim that you're juggling compensation to soak up profits. Be smart about bonuses. Say your corporation has two 50% stockholders. If the annual bonus is divided 50-50 between the owners, that'll look like a division of the profits, a dividend to the IRS. Instead, the bonus should be tied to performance. For example, the shareholder who brings in more business during the year might get a larger bonus. Here's the tactic. Pay bonuses to non-shareholders too. This will make bonus payments to shareholders look less like dividends. Follow a formula. Use your corporate minutes to describe how bonuses are going to be awarded. If these outlays are linked to preset performance goals, there will be demonstrable standards for determining executive bonuses. Once this formula is in place, apply it consistently year after year after year. This can show that these payments were not calculated to disguise distributions of profits. Now, let's talk about S corporations. Yeah. So here's the thing. If you operate your business as an S corporation, no corporate income tax is going to be due. So double taxation is not an issue here. Therefore, some S corporation owners attempt to hold down compensation to minimize payroll taxes. Generally, once a valid S election is in effect, a corporation is not subject to tax at the corporate level, assuming no accumulated earnings and profits. The S corporation, with certain modifications, computes its income as if it were an individual. Here's an example. Jessica Jones is 100% owner of an S corporation. This year, she takes $50,000 in salary. She also receives $150,000 in profits from her S corporation. All $200,000 is reported on her personal tax return. The benefit? Jessica pays Social Security and Medicare tax on only $50,000 worth of earned income. And $97,500 is subject to Social Security tax. There's no earnings ceiling for the Medicare tax. At a 15.3% rate, employer and employee contributions, she saves $7,268 in tax by paying Social Security and Medicare taxes on a $50,000 salary rather than on the $97,500. In addition, she saves 2.9% on earnings over $97,500 by not paying Medicare tax. Here's the IRS's position. The IRS might say that her earned income really is higher than the $50,000, as high as $200,000. If so, she'll owe the additional payroll tax. So here's the strategy. In your corporate minutes, provide reasons for keeping executive salaries at low levels. There might be a need to keep a cushion in case of business downturns, for example. Follow up by keeping some cash in the company. So it won't seem as though you're trying to avoid payroll taxes by paying yourself compensation disguised as corporate profits. How about help wanted? Regardless of the type of business entity, the more evidence that you can provide that your compensation is reasonable, the less exposure you'll have to IRS challenges to your compensation. Now, the reasonableness of an employee's salary is determined by comparing the amount of compensation paid with the value of the services performed. How to do it? Depend on your directors. Have your company's executive compensation structure set by a board of directors that includes outsiders. The board should produce a written compensation policy relating to such things as length of service with the business, previous levels of compensation, compensation at other companies in the industry, and individual performance goals. Even better, go with a pro. Instead of asking your directors to put together a compensation package, hire an independent professional or a consulting firm. Either way, you'll be less vulnerable to an IRS challenge if you don't set your own pay. And then finally, don't give in. If the IRS attempts to reduce or increase your reported compensation, you'll have an opportunity to appeal. Gather data to illustrate that your compensation was reasonable based on your qualifications, corporate performance, and surveys showing comparable executive compensation in your industry. Your trade association may be able to provide you with industry compensation information. It all comes down to what are the averages. That's what you want to know. That's where you want to be. Keep that in mind. Isn't that interesting? Didn't know you just didn't have a free reign with this, did you? Well, you didn't, unfortunately. Now, let me talk to you about something else. Providing medical marijuana does not invalidate tax-favored status. Yeah, you heard me right. A California nonprofit group provided caregiving services to people with debilitating illnesses. It also provided medical marijuana as a pain reliever, as is legal under state law. This is what the IRS said. The organization engaged in illegal drug trafficking under federal law, so it gets no tax benefit from its expenditures, which makes its income taxable, resulting in a $355,056 tax bill. The organization protested in tax court. Here's the decision. The organization engaged in many caregiving activities other than distributing marijuana. While it loses all its marijuana-related deductions, it keeps its deductions for its other activities. So, you know what? You want to be smart. You want to make sure you're keeping track of all these kinds of things. I mean, doesn't that just make sense? Yeah, it does. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to talk to you. I won't be doing all of the segments myself. Tomorrow we'll have Sean LaFave with us, thank goodness. He'll be talking about health care. I'm not sure exactly what he's going to be covering, but he will be talking about health care. But I'm going to be talking about surefire ways to fight a property tax assessment. Yeah, you know, when the property tax bill on your home arrives, don't assume it's correct, especially if your home's assessed value has changed sharply during the recent up and down swing in the real estate market. Checking the correctness of the assessment may be easier than you think and save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars in property taxes annually. Well, tomorrow, I'm going to tell you what you need to know. Yep, I'm going to tell you what you need to know. Well, let me give you something else right now, just food for thought before we have to go for our last commercial break, or not our last commercial break, but our next commercial break. The IRS is conducting compliance checks on tax exempts. You've heard about it. Charities and other tax-exempt organizations have long had low audit risk because they generally owe no taxes. The IRS believes that this lack of scrutiny may have led to erroneous reporting and sometimes to abusively large executive compensation packages. As a result, the IRS recently conducted compliance checks of 1,826 tax-exempt organizations regarding their executive compensation packages. The findings? More than 30% of the organizations that received compliance check notices amended their Form 990 tax returns. This resulted in 15% of those receiving the notice being selected for audit. An example, of 50 public charities reporting compensation higher than $250,000, none initially filed schedules detailing the compensation paid to officers or employees. About 5% of organizations were found to have paid excessive compensation, leading to steep tax penalties and the disqualification of the organizations. The IRS considers correct Form 990 reporting to be very important, even when there's no substantive wrongdoing at a charity, because the public relies upon the information provided on the form to learn how the charity spends its funds and how it pays its executives. Two results of the study. The compensation packages of executives of tax-exempt organizations will become a higher priority target or audit target in the future in the subject of specific future compliance initiatives. And the IRS has created a new website, www.stayexempt.org, to inform tax-exempt organizations of their reporting requirements and to help them better meet those requirements. Yeah, things are getting tough, folks. You can believe it. Now, do not go away, because when we come back, I'm going to tell you about the birthdays for today, the secret daily teachings for your life, the Harvard Business Tip of the Day, and interesting but useless facts. Do not go away. I'll be right back after these brief messages.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchased high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson & Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson & Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza Live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4:40 p.m. Pacific time. It is currently 68 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, I want you to know, I love this part of the show, and I hope you do too. You know what today is, right? Sure you do. It's Monday, and it's October the 5th, right? Yeah, it's also somebody's birthday. Oh, yeah. You know what? And I just love this part of the show. And you know what? Here's a guy we all know about. We think about him almost every day without even realizing it. He was actually born in 1902, passed away in 1984. You're going to know who he was. Fast food entrepreneur of McDonald's Corporation, Mr. Ray Kroc. Happy birthday, Ray. We miss you. And also born in 1937, a former football coach who was one of only 2 head coaches to win both the college football national championship and the Super Bowl. Happy birthday, Barry Switzer. And here's another good looking one, right? And independently wealthy, born in 1983, a fashion model, socialite, celebritante, entrepreneur, heiress, and fashion designer. She is the young sister of Paris. Happy birthday, Nikki Hilton. Yeah. And let's talk about this. Today in history, October the 5th, 1947. The very first televised White House address is given by U.S. President Harry S. Truman. Yeah, and that's something. And in 1969, the very first episode of the famous comedy show Monty Python's Flying Circus aired on the BBC. And then on October the 5th, 1970, PBS became a television network. And then finally, 1991, the first official version of the Linux kernel, version of 0.02, is released. Okay, so you know what? Today's quote comes from Donald Trump. We all know who that is, right? Well, Donald Trump says, everything in life is luck. Yeah. Well, I can tell you that all luck is when hard work and preparation meets opportunity. That's what luck really is. Now, let's talk about the secret daily teaching for your life. And, you've heard me talk about it all the time. It's all about positive mental attitude. The secret teaching today is anytime you look at yourself with critical eyes, switch your focus immediately to the presence within, and its perfection will reveal itself to you. As you do this, all imperfections that have manifested in your life will dissolve because imperfections cannot exist in the light of this presence. Whether you want to regain perfect eyesight, dissolve disease and restore well-being, turn poverty into abundance, reverse aging and degeneration, or eradicate any negativity, focus on and love the presence within you, and perfection will manifest. I'm telling you, folks, sounds odd, doesn't it? But it works. It really works. Well, let's talk about the Harvard Business Tip of the day. And the management tip today is the right way to switch jobs. There is one. Everyone has advice about the best way to switch jobs. But how do you know who's right? If you're thinking about leaving, here's what the experts say that you should know. Staying at a job for 1 to 2 years is no longer necessary. 70% of people quit their jobs within 2 years, so employers have become more accepting of job hopping. Consider telling your boss you're looking for a new job. She may want to try to keep you by offering more money or flexibility. But be wary of accepting your company's counteroffer. There was a reason you started looking for another job in the first place. Make sure you address those issues before accepting an offer to stay. And then finally, focus on interesting work, not title and compensation. More money and a fancier title rarely make us happy. Instead, look for autonomy, mastery, and purpose in your next role. You will be glad you did. I promise you will. All right. It is now time for those interesting but useless facts. And I love this part of the show. I hope you do too. Did you know that moths are unable to fly during an earthquake? I have no idea why. How about this? The yin-yang pattern's earliest use is in Rome, not China. Now that's kind of interesting. Think about it. Here's another one for you. Recycling a 3-foot stack of newspapers can save one whole tree. And that is interesting, I think. Here's one. If you plant an apple seed, it is almost guaranteed to grow a tree of a different type of apple. So it's not going to be the one you think. Almost guaranteed. Well, did you know an elephant can be pregnant for up to 2 years? Boy, be glad it's an elephant, because I don't know if I could have handled 2 years of pregnancy with my wife. Wow. Just unbelievable. How about this? Did you know that the 1912 Olympics were the last Olympics to give out medals made entirely of gold? Yeah, entirely of gold. Here's one. Antarctica has only one ATM machine. I'm not even going to get there. Who fills it? Who owns it? One ATM machine. That works. Here's one. Each king in a deck of playing cards represents a great king from history. The king of spades is King David. King of clubs is Alexander the Great. The king of hearts is Charlemagne. And the king of diamonds, Julius Caesar. Now, that's kind of interesting. If you think about it, I didn't know that. Did you? Yeah, it's true. Here's one for you. Did you know that clownfish start off as males and later on in their lives develop into females? I don't even want to get involved in that. Here's the last one for you. When a male penguin falls in love with a female penguin, he searches the entire beach to find the perfect... Whoops, I don't know what happened. I just lost my... there we go. There we go. Let's try it again. When a male penguin falls in love with a female penguin, he searches the entire beach to find the perfect pebble to present her. And when he finally finds it, he waddles over to her and places the pebble right in front of her. Kind of like a proposal. Isn't that cool? Yeah, that is really cool, folks. Now, do not go away. When we get back, I'm going to deal with the emails for today. The first one is going to be Kalina Ricks from Grisham, Oregon, asking about the tax treatment of gold. I'll tell you all about that right after these brief messages. Do not go away.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful and visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make the interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, General Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4:52 p.m. Pacific time. Currently 68 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, waiting in the wings is my good buddy John Matthews, who does his show, The Conservative Syndicate, every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time. You know, in case you haven't wondered or haven't guessed, that's right immediately following this show. And just go to John's website at theconservativesyndicate.net and hit listen live. You'll be glad you did. Hey, John, what's on the agenda for tonight?
Well, there's storms on the East Coast, and I think it's so indicative of the storms that are going on in the political circles right now. Hurricane warnings, everything else. There's a sense of desperation in the air out there, so we're going to be talking about it tonight. Planned Parenthood is trying to, if I can use a pun here, abort the problems that they're having, and they're trying different strategies. The hearing last week, we're going to talk about that, how they're trying to downplay the statistics that show that their services are decreasing, but their abortions are increasing, and that came up in the hearing last week. They're trying to fend that off, and of course, the revelation of Mark Meadows, Congressman Mark Meadows, who's part of the panel there, has some issue with a sexual harassment case with one of his staff members, means, of course, that Planned Parenthood is not guilty. You know, they're trying to play that game. We're going to be talking about Hillary, of course, some of the things that's going on with her campaign and the emails and everything else. They're now they're going to release some of the transcripts of the Benghazi hearings that were all super secret until Hillary found out she might be able to use them for damage control. So we're going to be talking about that. And Of course, the RNC is making even more rule changes on the primaries to try to ensure that one of their people gets selected. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing.
How are you going to? You're certainly not going to get that all done today. That must be this week's topic.
I'm sorry?
I said you're certainly not going to get that all done today. That's got to be this week's topic.
Well, yeah, we put them out there, and then as we exhaust the topics, we touch a little bit on each of them every day as much as we can. And by the end of the week, everybody knows pretty much what's happening. So, yeah, we may or may not, we never know how it's going to go.
Well, listen, I want to remind everybody that John's show, The Conservative Syndicate's on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. It's immediately following this show. So, go to John's website at theconservativesyndicate.net and just hit listen live, and you'll be able to hear tonight's show. And don't forget, I'll be on John's show Wednesday right after my show. So I'm looking forward to that. Hey, John, have a great show tonight, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
All right, buddy, take care. Okay, so that's my good buddy John Matthews, and let's talk about the emails for today. It's an entertainment section of the show, and we do our best to give you the best show that we can, but I want to remind you that it's sometimes the information that you folks provide to us just a little sketchy, so we do the best we can, but we always encourage you to talk to a licensed professional. They're always going to save you more money than they cost you, and you'll be glad that you actually did that. They give you peace of mind, and they're going to be responsible for what they tell you. Now, my first email today comes from Kalina Ricks from Grisham, Oregon, asking about the tax treatment of gold, and says, I want to buy gold as a safe investment, but I've been told that it doesn't qualify for capital gains tax treatment. Is this true? Kalina, gold bullion is the collectible upon which the top long-term capital gain tax is 28% instead of the normal 15%. Now, the same tax rate applies to gold coins and exchange-traded funds, a form of tradable securities that track the price of gold. You can still profit from gold at that 15% long-term capital gains tax rate by investing in gold mining companies or in mutual funds that specialize in holding the stock of those kinds of companies. Now, capital gains realized on their shares is taxed just like on any other corporate shares, but their share prices are highly correlated with the price of gold. So you'll get the best of all worlds there. I think that that's most likely what you're going to be wanting to accomplish. Now, next email comes from Andrew Rodriguez from Cortland, New York, asking about gifts of tuition, and says, my grandson is about to go to college where the annual tuition is well over $13,000. If I pay it for him, will I be making a taxable gift? Andrew, no. Not if you make the payment directly to the college. Now, generally, gifts exceeding the annual gift tax exempt amount of $13,500 per year per giver to any one recipient must be reported by the giver on a gift tax return. But payments made on behalf of an individual directly to an educational or medical institution are not deemed to be gifts to the individual and are tax exempt. In fact, you can make them in any amount on behalf of the individual and still give that individual another $13,000 tax-free. So write the tuition check directly to the college instead of giving the money to your grandchild. You'll be glad that you did that, I promise you. Now, I want to thank you for listening to Robert Cardoza Live at the intersection of business and politics. Robert Cardoza Live broadcasts on Spreaker Radio, Roar 1776 Radio, MyCast Live Radio, Blog Talk Radio, and countless terrestrial stations worldwide every Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. And on 405 Media Radio, Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Pacific Time. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, and YouTube, where you can listen to my shows 24/7. Go to my website at www.robertcardozalive.com and email me at robertcardozalive@gmail.com. That's where I get all the emails I deal with here on the show. On my next show, my first expert contributor is going to be Sean Lefebvre, continuing his series, Geared for Wellness. Well, my second expert is our own resident journalist, Suzette Mailer, and she's out on a special assignment tomorrow and won't be available, but we'll be talking to her next week. But we will have a great interview for you for tomorrow, and I encourage you to tell all of your friends about my show here on the RLC Broadcasting Network.
That's our show for today. Beginning today, treat everyone you meet as if they were going to be dead by midnight. Extend them all the care, kindness, and understanding that you can muster. Your life will never be the same again. So many of our dreams at first seem impossible, then they seem improbable, and then when we summon the will, they soon become inevitable. You know, the real secret of happiness is to make others believe that they're the cause of it. Robert Cardoza Live is brought to you by blogtalkradio.com every Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, go out and make it a great day. Your host has been Robert Cardoza, the technical advisor, Matchstick Digital, and your executive producer, also Robert Cardoza.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I enjoyed producing it for you. Don't forget to join me again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific Time for another installment of Robert Cardoza Live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. In the meantime, stay happy, stay safe, be good, make everybody's life better that you touched it. And good night, everybody.